There are a number of sports I would never attempt, like wingsuiting, free solo mountain climbing, and worst of all, cave exploration, also known as spelunking. I have claustrophobia, a debilitating fear of being stuck in tight spaces, meaning you won't find me in any caves anytime soon. But there are some people without this fear that gather incredible research, like cave mappers, geologists, and even recreational spelunkers. Which brings me to the story of John Jones. John Jones, a 26-year-old father of one with another baby on the way, traveled to his hometown of Utah with his wife ahead of the Thanksgiving holiday. On November 24, 2009, John Jones, his brother Josh, and 9 other friends decided to explore a popular cave known as the Nutty Putty cave, named after the putty-like consistency of the walls. Located on a private property west of Utah Lake in Utah County, the cave is a popular spelunking spot, bringing people of all skill levels from around the world. At 8 p.m., they began exploring a section of the cave called the Big Slide, which is a generally spacious area where most explorers don't dare to go beyond, as the cave had a reputation for amateur explorers getting stuck in the past. Neither John or Josh have been to Nutty Putty before, but they had a long history of spelunking. Their dad used to take them with him on his explorations when they were kids, and John even acted as a trapped victim to help train the Utah Cave Rescue Team, a group his dad helped establish. After an hour of crawling through the cave, John and Josh's competitive nature got the best of them, and they challenged each other to see who could go further in the cave and find a section known as the Birth Canal. The Birth Canal is an incredibly tight section of the cave that only a few people in the past have been able to squeeze through, mostly women and shorter people. However, John was now 6 feet tall and over 200 pounds, no longer the same stature of his teens when he had the most caving experience. John had planned on crawling through the Birth Canal, which opens up in a chamber where he could turn around and make an exit. He believed he had it in his sights when he reached a fork, and then made a massive mistake. He accidentally turned the wrong way into an unexplored and unmapped section of the cave. He made himself as small as possible by putting his arms under his body and inching forward by moving his shoulders, hips, and tippy toes. That's when he encountered a lip in the rock, a rock halfway blocking the passage, making it tighter for him to squeeze through. He struggled trying to pass it. He was physically too big. It was so tight that he had to exhale all of the air out of his lungs and make a sudden push forward. When he breathed in again, his lungs expanded, and he became hooked in between his ribs and the rock. He couldn't scoot forward or backward. He did what any experienced caver would do in that situation, and stayed calm while he calculated his next move. After multiple attempts, he pushed past the lip and continued crawling. As he inched forward, he spotted an area that he believed was an opening where he could turn around. So he made his way toward it, only to find out he was crawling into a dead end, and the opening he thought that he could use to turn around was actually a 10 by 18 inch hole, about the same size as a standard toilet seat. That's when he started to panic. He was officially stuck in an unknown section of the cave, and it was far too tight for him to be able to free his arms or shoulders. To make it even worse, he had been crawling into a dead end and was now stuck essentially upside down with his legs and feet in the air, preventing him from using his arms or legs to gain traction from the cave floors or walls to pull himself backward. After some time and failed attempts, he began calling for his brother, and when he arrived, they both joked and were in good spirits about the situation. Josh began pulling him by his feet, but John kept getting hooked by his ribcage at the lip of the rock. But this time, he couldn't depress his chest any further. To make matters worse, each time Josh pulled, John would slide even deeper, making him even more stuck and unable to use his arms now in any way. After multiple failed attempts to pull John out, it became clear that this was a very serious situation. Josh and the rest of the team made the 1-hour crawl back outside of the cave to phone for help, while one friend stayed behind to keep John company. After 3 painful hours, the first rescuer, Susie Matola, arrived and began to make her way down to John. When she got there, she noticed that because he was stuck upside down, his heart would be pumping against gravity, elevating his heart rate and blood pressure. She tried to keep him calm by talking to him and assuring him that he would be okay, to which John replied, "Hi Susie, thank you for coming, but I really want to get out." She was no stranger to cave rescues and attempted everything she could think of, like cutting off parts of his pants to allow for more wiggle room, and shaving parts of the wall to try to pull him out easier. But after 2 hours, she was exhausted, and made her way back out of the cave to formulate a plan with the now 30 or so rescuers, TV stations, and his pregnant wife and daughter that had just arrived at the scene. At the base of the cave, the rescuers were anxious to create a plan. First, they thought about pulling him by his legs with ropes, but they couldn't get the angles correct, so they began to try to remove rock by using drills. But this was taking far too long for any noticeable progress, and the debris kept falling on John, making him even more stuck and harder for him to breathe. So then they decided to create a pulley system with multiple anchor points to try and pull him out safer and more efficiently. Each trip down the cave to drill and connect more anchor points took about an hour to perform, and only one rescuer was able to do it at a time. That's when the on-site emergency trauma surgeon got word that John had been upside down for more than 6 hours at this point, and said that the human body can only sustain about 10 hours or so in this position before the blood begins to pool in the lungs and brain, causing cardiac arrest. Susie then noted that she heard a rattling sound coming from his lungs when she was down there with him, which is one of the first signs of asphyxiation. This prompted the rescue team to try and hurry and pull him out with the pulley system. They made the most progress with this solution, and they were able to get him back up to the lip of the rock where he was originally stuck. John was unable to exhale due to the liquids that accumulated in his lungs, and his legs couldn't bend in the correct direction to pull him past the entrance of the hole. At this point, John was in incredible pain and beginning to lose hope. In an effort to keep his spirits up, they gave him a radio to speak with his wife and daughter. This calmed him down a bit, but his spirits were still very low. They also poured water down his arm, in hopes that he would be able to drink it. On the third pull, he was pulled safely and high enough where he could make eye contact with the rescuer, who said John had bloodshot red eyes and a smile of relief on his face. But then after the fourth pull, what would have been the last pull to get him out, one of the anchors of the pulley system fell out, hitting one of the rescuers in the head, and John fell straight back down into the hole. The rescuer became unconscious, and John had become fully unresponsive. When the rescuer gained consciousness, he made his way out while another rescuer came down. The new rescuer was able to tie a rope around John's waist, but then he got stuck and had to free himself before he could give the green light to pull. John was barely breathing at this point, and even with his wife radioing down to him, he could not provide a response. The rescue team tried a worst-case scenario effort to pull, but his legs kept getting stuck on the roof of the cave. They thought about breaking his legs at the knee in the opposite direction, but feared this pain would put him into shock and kill him instantly. Eventually, tired of waiting, a paramedic went down to get a pulse, and unfortunately broke the horrible news. John had passed away at 11:56 p.m. on the 25th of November after 28 hours of being stuck upside down. His wife couldn't handle the news and broke down into tears, demanding that they pull him out regardless. While he was no longer alive, the rescuers crafted a plan to pull him out in pieces, but this was too gruesome and dangerous to attempt, so they finally decided it was best to seal the cave with concrete to prevent any others from exploring the cave ever again. The cave now serves as a memorial and final resting place for John, and his family got a plaque installed at the base of the cave to remember him by. While doing research for this video, I came across a YouTube channel of two brothers that go cave exploring. I'll link it down in the description for anyone interested in watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you're not already subscribed, please be sure to do so, and if you have any other cave stories, please leave them down in the comments. I love reading them. Lastly, I just launched a Patreon. If you would like to support the channel and get early access to videos or become eligible for giveaways, I put a link in the description, and if you can't support, Simply liking, commenting, and sharing the videos goes a long way. This will help me fund some cool stuff I have planned in the future, and allow me to make more videos. Anyway, thanks for watching. See you next time. In 2006, a well-respected and up-and-coming filmmaker and writer mysteriously vanished after possibly making a film on the Freemasons, or costing investors lots of money. After several days of searching, his co-workers found a hole on the roof of an